Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at some great material you shared, parts of the English podcast, How to Make Introductions in English, episode 20.
That's right. We're diving into making introductions in English. Really fundamental stuff, but so important.
Absolutely. And our sort of mission today, if you like, is to give everyone some really practical, easy to use phrases.
And crucially, understand why these introductions matter so much. It's all about boosting confidence.
Exactly. Confidence in those everyday chats. Which brings me to something the source material asks, and I'm curious about your take. Why are first impressions so incredibly important when we meet new people?
That's a great question. I think, well, the source uses this lovely analogy like planting a tree in good soil.
I remember that part.
Yeah. A good introduction, it's like preparing that soil that sets the tone, doesn't it? It makes the whole conversation, the whole interaction potentially grow much better.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like laying a foundation for whatever comes next. A simple hello can really lead somewhere.
It absolutely can. Great conversations often start with just that simple, effective introduction.
Okay, so let's get practical. What are those absolute must-have basic building blocks for introducing yourself in English?
Well, the source really stresses keeping it simple and friendly. Things like, hi, my name is, or hello, I'm...
Just clear and direct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then adding something warm, like, nice to meet you, or maybe it's a pleasure to meet you.
Those feel very natural, easy to remember.
They are. And they immediately signal openness, friendliness.
Now, the material also mentioned adding a bit more info, like where you're from. How does that fit in?
Yeah, that's a nice touch.
Right.
You could say something like, hey, I'm your name, I'm from London, or, whichever city or country.
Just slips in easily after your name?
Pretty much. It gives a little hook, something for the other person to potentially latch onto. A little bit more information without being overwhelming.
Okay, so you've said your name, maybe where you're from. How do you avoid it being just a statement? How do you make it a two-way thing?
Yes. Crucial point. The source highlights just turning it back to them. Really simple.
Like how?
Just add, and you, or what about you? So the full thing might be, hi, I'm Sarah, I'm from Canada, and you.
That small question makes all the difference, doesn't it?
It really does. It shifts from a declaration to an invitation. It opens the door for them to share.
Right. It starts the actual conversation. So beyond that initial exchange, how do we keep that momentum going? Find some common ground.
Good question. Follow-up questions are key here. The source suggests things like, what do you do for work?
A classic.
Yeah. Or maybe something a bit more personal, depending on the vibe, like, what do you like to do in your free time?
So you're showing genuine curiosity.
Exactly. You're moving beyond the surface level, trying to actually get to know them a little bit, finding those connection points.
Makes sense. Now, something else the material touched on was how things change depending on the situation, formal versus casual.
Right. Context is everything. So in a more formal setting, like work, maybe.
Yeah, like a networking event or meeting a new client.
You probably lean towards something like, hello, my name is your name, and I'm pleased to meet you.
Yeah.
It just sounds a bit more, professional.
It carries a different weight, a bit more formality.
Precisely. Whereas, if you're at a party or meeting friends of friends.
Much more relaxed.
Yeah, exactly. Then something like, hey, I'm your name, nice to meet you, feels much more natural, more appropriate for that casual setting.
So the core message is politeness and friendliness, always.
Always.
But you tweak the language slightly for the environment.
You got it. Adaptability is key.
Okay, what about when you're the one doing the introducing, bringing two other people together?
The introduction triangle. The source keeps it pretty straightforward here, too. Casually, you might just say, hey, this is my friend Ben.
Nice and simple.
Or, let me introduce you to my colleague, Aisha. Very common, very clear.
And does formality play a role here as well?
It can, yeah.
Right.
If it's a more formal situation, perhaps a business lunch or something, you might elevate it slightly. I'd like to introduce you to my manager, Mr. Smith. Using I'd like to introduce you just adds that extra touch of politeness.
So this is fine for most casual spots, but I'd like to introduce adds a bit more professional polish.
Exactly. Good way to put it.
Okay, switching gears slightly. We do so much online now. Zoom calls, emails. How do introductions work there? Are the rules different?
Well, the principles are similar. Be clear, be friendly, but the execution is a bit different. On a Zoom call, for instance,
Yeah.
the source suggests something like, "Hi, everyone, I'm David, and I'm really happy to be part of this meeting today." States who you are, adds a positive note.
Creates a good virtual first impression. And emails, especially that first contact.
Emails tend to be inherently a little more formal, don't they? So something like, "Hello, my name is your name, and I'm reaching out regarding," works well.
Clear, direct, gives context immediately.
Yep. Gets straight to the point while still being polite. You don't have the visual cues, so clarity is paramount.
Speaking of visual cues, the material also mentioned nonverbal stuff. Handshakes, smiles. How important is that?
Hugely important, where appropriate, of course. A firm handshake, looking someone in the eye.
And the smile.
Oh, the smile is powerful. Even on camera, it just instantly conveys warmth, openness. Like the source says, it basically says, "I'm happy to meet you," without you having to utter a word.
It transcends language, really.
It absolutely does.
Okay, so let's quickly recap some of those core phrases the source emphasized just to drill them in.
Good idea. So we had, "Hi, I'm name." Simple, essential.
Got it.
"Nice to meet you," or "Pleasure to meet you."
The friendly follow-up.
Then adding location. "I'm from place."
Optional, but good.
Asking about them. "What do you do for work?" Or similar questions.
Keeping it going.
And introducing others. "Let me introduce you to name," or "This is name."
The connector role.
And the key thing, the source stressed, say them naturally.
Yes.
Don't rush. Be clear. And smile.
Right. It's not about reciting lines. It's about actually connecting. Which brings us back to those follow-up questions. Why are they so vital after the initial hello?
Because that's where the real conversation starts. As the source points out, asking questions shows you're not just performing a ritual, you're actually interested.
You want to learn about the other person.
Exactly. It builds rapport, finds common interests, and stops the conversation from just dying after the names are exchanged.
Definitely keeps the ball rolling. Okay, practical problem.
Yeah.
You've just been introduced. Maybe it was noisy. Maybe you were distracted. And the name just went in one ear and out the other. What do? We've all been there.
Oh, absolutely. And the source has some really reassuring advice here. It's totally okay.
Really? You don't have to just guess or avoid using their name.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Just politely say something like, "I'm so sorry I didn't quite catch your name," or "Could you tell me your name again, please?"
And people are usually okay with that.
Almost always, honestly. Most people appreciate the honesty. It's much less awkward than getting it wrong later or avoiding eye contact. Asking for clarification is fine.
That's genuinely good to know. Takes the pressure off a bit.
It should. It happens to everyone.
Right. Well, this has been a really helpful deep dive into the art of the English introduction based on that podcast material. If you had to boil it down, what are the absolute key takeaways for listeners?
I think, number one, introductions really matter. They set the stage for everything that follows, whether it's a friendship, a work relationship, or just a pleasant chat.
They're foundational.
Yeah. And number two, keep it simple, clear, and friendly. Use those basic phrases, but deliver them warmly.
And adapt. Formal, casual, online, in person.
Exactly. Adapt to the context, but always aim for politeness and connection. That's the goal.
And like anything, practice makes perfect, or at least makes it easier.
Definitely. The source even suggests just practicing saying, "Hi, I'm your name" out loud. Seems tiny, but it builds that muscle memory, that confidence.
So, a small action step for everyone listening. Try it out. Maybe even try varying it slightly.
Yeah, experiment. See what feels right for you.
And maybe a final thought to leave everyone with, building on what we've discussed. Think about how you introduce yourself. Beyond just the words, how might tweaking your tone, or maybe that first question you ask, subtly signal something about you?
Ooh, that's interesting. Like, how do you want to come across in those first few seconds?
Exactly. What part of your personality could you hint at right from the start just by how you handle that initial introduction? Something to mull over.